there's no more tomorrow. There's no more like, oh, it's the next day. Oh, I got to do this later. Oh, I'm going to keep procrastinating and just keep pushing it off. It's like, no, dude, we're 30. The time is now. Like, it's kind of like, feels like we're running out of time even more than what it already did. What up, guys? Walks with Cody into Cody. 11 or 12, we're not exactly sure. We never know. We're going to figure it out one of these days.
Yeah, we're going to get it.
But we are walking. We know that. We're just not sure what day we're walking, so. Yes, sir. So I guess I'll talk about what we talked about in the car earlier, which I also talked about earlier, which I also talked about with somebody else, one of my friends. What I've come to realize, or just like experiencing in myself, is like, now that I've turned 30, there's something about 30 that like flips a switch, or at least for me it did, and then it sounded like for you it did.
Yeah.
So it's basically just, there's no more tomorrow. There's no more like, oh, it's the next day. Oh, I got to do this later. Oh, I'm going to keep procrastinating and just keep pushing it off. It's like, no, dude, we're 30. The time is now. Like, it's kind of like, feels like we're running out of time even more than what it already did. Like, honestly, I feel like I move fast. I make decisions very fast, and I move quick. I move intentionally. But again, I talked about it before. I sacrifice a lot of now for the future. And I think that now that I'm 30, I'm like, dude, I can't keep doing this. It's not sustainable for me. And it's so interesting though, because I did hear a quote. I'm gonna read this quote off because it's so funny.
All right, buddy.
That I was gonna read this quote, but it was almost contradicting what I said this morning, which is kind of funny how like we do that. And honestly, the interesting thing is both things are true at the same time. And so that's the weirdest part, is anything that you say, like, you know, I remember people were always making fun of me, like, you said that rentals were the worst investment, and then you said they're the best. And I was like, yeah, that's because it's like kind of true for both.
Yeah.
Like, they have a lot of negatives and they have a lot of positives, and that's the duality of life. But anyway, so the quote was, your heroes aren't gods. They are people who got really good at one thing by neglecting everything else. And the funniest part is that's exactly how I got good at the thing that I do, was by neglecting everything else. That's exactly what I did for sales. I neglected absolutely everything else. Well, almost everything else. I didn't neglect my health. So I was still working out. I was still like physically fit and, you know, taking care of my body. But I neglected everything else that was not just helping me become a better salesperson. That's how I got so freaking good at that, which also like lost me my wife. It lost like some friends, intimacy, like time that I can't get back. Like, it cost me a lot. It also, I have to remind myself, got me to where I am today, to the person that I am today. And so I have to be okay with that. And it is what it is now, obviously. And I'm grateful for a lot of what happened. I wouldn't say I would necessarily do it again because I think the cost was pretty high. But at the end of the day, we're here, we're still alive. We have another opportunity. So anyway, I thought it was just very interesting how I'm like, okay, I'm not going to continue to live like that. But then also, that's how you get really good at something. I was like, that's an interesting dilemma.
Yeah.
But I also, I also disagree with Ryan Pineda when he just says, like, we live for a lifestyle. Like, that's what it's really about. Like, all of these things, all of the things that I was trying to learn, all of the financial independence was so I could have time to spend with my wife, so I could have time to spend with my family, so I could have money to do all these things. Well, now I have the money, and guess what? I'm still doing the same things. So it's interesting how it's so difficult to not just stay in that habit, because I've been doing it for so long too. So now I have money and I'm still living as if I don't. I legitimately do like a lot of the same stuff that I was doing even back then. Yeah. So it's just an interesting thing that basically now I'm not going to continue to do that. I'm going to go spend time with my family. I just drove down to Kentucky. I drove 5 hours. I drove 5 hours down there. I spent like 23 hours in Kentucky. And then I drove 5 hours back. So 10 hours driving to spend 23 hours there. Before, my mind would be like, oh, that's not worth it. I'm gonna be tired and all this stuff. Yeah. But then like, it was worth it because I got to spend time with my sisters and my mom and my stepdad, my nieces and nephews that I'll never get that time back. And so it was 100% worth it. It's hard, but at the end of the day, it was worth it. So anyway, that's what I've come to realize is life is short, guys. Like, If you keep thinking it's going to be that someday, just do it now. And a lot of times it comes from procrastination, just like making a decision, and then you just keep wanting to put it off, and then you back it up by all these reasons of why it won't work, and you kind of like get negative instead of just doing what you actually want to do, which is like, I wanted to go see my family. But again, I could have let the negativity of, oh, the 5-hour drive and this, and is it really going to be worth it and all that stuff talk me out of what I actually want. And so that's what I would say is just do it.
Brings me into a good little thing I got on here, buddy.
Good little segue.
Yeah, it's the same thing you were just talking about,
Okay.
about seeing your family. All right, so I was listening to a podcast, Nick Bear. He was talking about how his mom, she was really healthy. She did 5Ks. She was a special education teacher, all that. And she was planning for her retirement so she could spend time and see her grandkids and see her kids get married.
Yep.
And then never got to do that because she passed away in 2019, even though she was healthy and seemed like she was like, you know, healthy, and she just passed away from cancer.
Wow.
So I think she was like 55. So just thought I would share that with you. So yeah, when my dad came over yesterday just to like give me the bike and talk to me, like that was awesome.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I just want to like ask him to go ride bikes and stuff, you know, every now and then.
Yeah.
So.
Did you ride bikes?
I mean, with him?
Yeah.
Yesterday?
Yeah.
I mean, he got on it, I got on it, and it was like a 3-wheeler bike, and we were just kind of like talking about it and stuff, and you could tell
awesome.
he's bored.
Yeah.
You know?
100%, dude.
Yeah.
That reminds me, it's such a simple thing. It's so funny. So this reminds me of a story. I was out in California at Ed Milet's like thing whenever I went over to his house and stuff. There's a guy there. I think his name is Gerard Adams. So he's pretty big on Instagram and stuff like that. But anyway, I went out to dinner with him and Matt. Gosh, I can't remember Matt's last name. And then Jordan Wildman. We ate dinner. So funny how sometimes things are just so freaking simple, and then we just don't realize how simple it is. The guy told me, I was basically sharing like, hey man, I'm like, you know, really want to see my dad. I wish he would like get out more. I wish like we could have more fun together and all this stuff. And I kept trying to get my dad to come to me of like, all right, dad, let's go out to eat. Let's go to Fort Wayne. Let's do this. Let's have fun. Like we can go fly out. Like I'm basically just like creating this real grand like vision that this like kind of like what I do. I'm like, dude, I like to have fun. I like to do big things and all this different stuff. So I was just like, hey, let's go do that. My dad never would. And the guy's like, why don't you just go to him? And I'm like,
yeah.
Why is that so difficult? Like the odds of my dad saying, no, don't come over are slim to none.
Yeah.
The odds of him going out to Fort Wayne, driving here, it's like, it's that same resistance that I was just talking about traveling down there. It's like the same thing in his mind. It's just smaller stuff, but the same thing. It's the same thing of like, whenever I want to go see my family, do I want to see them? Of course I want to see them. Do I want to drive 5 hours? Not really. That's the way he is, except for it's like, it's a smaller inconvenience that will stop him from doing what he actually wants to do.
Yeah.
And so what I have to do is take out the inconvenience, take out that if I really want to see him, have the intimacy and stuff. And so it was just such a simple concept that like, I thanked him so much for it. I think he almost like thinks I'm joking because of like how much I thank him. But like, yeah. I'm like, dude, that was a game changer for me to like go to him. So
you just didn't think about that, right?
Yeah, I'm just like, I just want to get him out of the house, and like that's the only way to make them happy. But sometimes just you being there with them makes them happy.
Yeah, I love it. Maybe just one day I'll just show up with my bike and be like, all right, let's go.
100%.
Trail, let's go.
He'd love it, dude.
Yeah.
He would love it. I would 1,000% do it, and do it like this week. Like don't wait. Don't wait. You don't have time to wait.
Just like you going fishing with your dad like a couple weeks ago, you know?
Yep. Just schedule these things, dude. That's what I found too, is just putting it on the calendar makes it real. Just schedule it. Just like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm going to do stuff other than work. It's like well, I can't say we all have money problems, but it seems like we have money problems, so.
I forgot how it goes, but it was like, obviously the more money you have, the more problems you can solve. And like saying that, the more money you have can also create more problems to solve. You know, I don't know if that's how it goes,
100%. Yeah, more money, more problems. But then, yeah, you definitely have an opportunity to solve more problems too. But dude, the more money you have, the more problems there are. Now, the interesting thing that I actually enjoy about entrepreneurship, about business, about freaking all of it, is that my capacity to deal with problems is so much greater than it used to be. My capacity to deal with issues is like 10 times what it used to be, because the problems got so much bigger that like whenever it's like something smaller, now I'm like, oh, that's it? I'm like, oh, geez. Like now I'm not worried about a couple $1,000s. Like if there's a couple $1,000 problem, I'm like, okay, well, here's what we'll do here. And it's just like not that big of a deal. Yeah. Now, whenever there's like a $50,000 problem, I'm like, okay, well, that really sucks. Like, yeah. Like now we got to figure this out. And when it's a couple $100,000 problem, then I'm like, oh man.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, now I'm like this. I mean, the craziest part is we have figured it out. I remember a time I was in massive anxiety for like 30 days straight. Dude, this is funny actually. So there was a time that I got shingles, like all on this part of my face. Were you here? I don't think you were when I got that.
I don't think so.
I think I was like 20, 25, 26, 27, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm. So in the beginning stages of LTD?
Not in the beginning, it was more like the middle. It was a couple years ago. I'd say probably 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
So anyway, we're freaking like got over $1 million under contract. We got $120,000 on credit cards. Just freaking out. I'm like, dude, I don't know how we're gonna close on all these properties. I lent all my money to the company at that time. It was like 300K. So I had like $300,000, maybe it was 250, I can't remember. Either way, all of my money was invested in the company. I was literally living on a line of credit. So I had lines of credits that I pushed into the company. I had everything leveraged. I was freaking out because I'm like, dude, if anything goes sideways, I could probably figure it out. I just didn't know how I was gonna solve it at the time, right? I'm like, I think I'll figure it out, but I didn't know how I was going to. And I just remember that time, and everybody kept telling me, oh, you'll figure it out. Oh, you'll figure it out. And I'm like, well, why do you believe that? They're like, oh, because you always do. I'm like, you're right. I always have, but that's not necessarily an indicator that I'm going to, because I've also never been in this situation.
Yeah, it's not how you feel.
Yeah, I'm like, I've never been in this situation before, so I've not solved this exact thing. I've solved it on a smaller scale, but now the size of it scared the crap out of me. So anyway, I had crazy anxiety for a long time, and then got shingles, and I was stressed out of my mind.
It's harder to deal with.
Yeah, 100%, dude. Yeah. And yeah, when they told me that, like, they said somebody my age to get shingles, like, that was just insane, and the only way it's caused is stress. And I'm like, man, that's interesting. Now, here's another interesting thing. This will be good for you, buddy. It's gonna be good for you right now in this situation.
Thank you.
So the other good thing about it is the story that we tell ourselves about the stress. That has a lot to do with how the stress actually affects your body, because I believe, and I truly do believe this down to my freaking soul, that stress is what God uses to stretch us. It stretches our capacity. It turns us into the person that He created us to be. And so the hard stuff, the stress, the anxiety, all of that stuff, like, I believe actually at the end of the day makes us better people. So I look at that of like, anytime that I'm feeling anxiety, anytime I'm feeling stress, I'm almost, it's weird. I'm like obviously stressed out, your heart rate goes up. I'm a little bit grateful for it. And then also, at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. If we lose it all, it's not that big of a deal.
I always think of that though, like, man, what if I lose even, the house? What if I lose all that and I have to like deal with that with my family and stuff, It's like, dang.
Yep.
That would be horrible.
Dude, I heard this other thing. This is so funny too. You know what's interesting is we go on a downward spiral, right? Mm-hmm. Have you ever went on an upward spiral?
I don't really know what that means, but I probably have a few times when I'm feeling real good.
Most people don't. You don't, like, it's real easy to go on a downward spiral, right? It's real easy to think, oh, worst case scenario, and like, oh man, like all this stuff. Why don't we think about a best case scenario and then spiral that? Oh, this would happen. Oh, and then this would happen. Oh, and this would happen. Mm-hmm. We don't really do that very much. And so it takes more mental energy in order to actually think about the more positive stuff and the stuff that's actually gonna be there. And it's almost like, I believe in spiritual warfare, so I believe that, that's like spirits that are just trying to bring you down. It's a lot easier for them. So it's easier to get you in that negative train of thought than it is for just to use your thought process to actually think about positive things or something good that could happen out of it. But
yeah, I feel like when things are going fairly well or really well, I can do that upward spiral, but then once I notice things are out of my control a little bit, or things are going down, then that's when I'm like, man, what if this happens? I'm gonna lose this. Everything is hard right now, Yep. But I guess it's just a story that I tell myself.
You haven't lost it yet, buddy.
No.
That's the funniest part too, is that's a quote that I always heard is, gosh, what do they say? Like basically a courageous man only dies once. I can't remember the exact quote, but basically like the coward replays the stuff 1,000 times over, and then the courageous man only dies once.
Yeah.
Which basically is like, yeah, we play this and we give ourselves the anxiety about something that's futuristic that hasn't even happened yet. And then whenever it does happen, we're going to figure it out in the scenario, because guess what? You have to. So at the end of the day, worrying about it, you're now creating a future that doesn't even exist yet. You're creating it right now.
Exactly.
And so you're giving yourself the feelings, the anxiety of what it could happen, and now you're experiencing it.
Yeah.
Even though it hasn't happened.
Exactly. We're making that extreme and feeling it now, and yeah, it's insane.
And it's not even happened. And the funniest part is, this is the thing that I think about, and it does give me some sense of peace. One is, obviously it's out of our control. God has control, and whenever I actually let go, that gives me a massive amount of peace. Like when I was on the plane and I thought we were all gonna die, I'm like, all right, take me. Like, it is what it is, dude. There's literally nothing I can do in this scenario, so it just is what it is. And I actually I was just like kind of at peace with it. I was like, all right, I'm gonna die. And so, just is what it is.
Yep, you let go.
Yep. The other side of it is, I forget what I was gonna say, but it's very important. Control. Oh man, what the heck was I gonna say? Maybe that's all God wanted me to say, surrender.
There we go.
No, I remember. Basically, I remind myself, and this is like what helped me quit my job, this is what helped me make a lot of decisions, that when you put me in a scenario, I know I'm the kind of person that will figure it out. I know I am. Now, it is funny how when I'm in this scenario, I freak out until I do figure it out, but guess what? I do eventually figure it out, or at least I have every other time in my entire life, which you have too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, same thing.
Yeah, you have too, otherwise you wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
You would not be here. So just know that if you're in the scenario, if you're put in the scenario, you will figure it out. So if you lose your house, you will figure it out. If you're on the streets, you will figure it out. If anything happens, you will figure it out.
Yeah.
You will 100% figure it out.
Yeah, every time my back's against the wall, I go into this weird mode, crazy mode, where I'm just like problem solving and thinking about every single avenue that I can do to like fix it.
Yep.
But then I'm always, I should be trying to not get my back against the wall, but it's hard to like know when that is coming, you know?
100%. Well, I just play like my back is against the wall a lot of times, even when it's not, until I get to a place of like real security, and then that's where it gets interesting. That's kind of almost the place that I'm at. Like personally, I'm almost there, but then and like the business, obviously, I don't know, dude. It's an interesting thing because we keep growing and growing and growing, so I don't know if we ever get there, but still living as though you're there, because honestly, it's not the worst place to be. It does make you work really hard. That's why Grant Cardone always says, like, stay broke and then just keep reinvesting the money, and so you always kind of trick yourself into that working mode, because there is not a time that you are going to work harder than when you got no money and you're broke. Like, you just work harder. So when you have a bunch of money sitting in the bank, dude, I'm good. I don't need to work out so hard today. I don't need to do this. Like, does give a settling feeling, so.
Yeah, and I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, we were going to Bluffton, I think, me and you, and I was talking to you. I'm like, if I get like $5,000 a month, I know I'll be good.
Yep.
And here I am. You said that once you get there, dude, you're going to need more than that. It's just going to keep going up. And now here's where I am now. So.
Yep.
The most I've made in my life, and I'm still, not where I want to be.
I know.
So.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a good thing, dude. That's something else that I'm trying to find the exact quote on how I want to word it, so I'm like writing it right now. But it's something to the effect of, when you start asking yourself the questions, we see it as such this bad thing, but it actually comes from a new sense of knowingness that we ask the questions. So the very questions that we're asking that make us feel bad about ourselves is actually a sign of growth in general anyway. It's so interesting how we judge ourselves because we're not where we want to be, but it's like, because we're asking the right questions, because we have this new sense of knowing and a new awareness, it makes us ask better and more questions that make us feel more worthless when actually we're way further along. It's so weird.
Yeah.
It's so weird, but yeah, I'm in the same spot, dude, where I'm like, dang, man, I've made like a lot more, done a lot more than what I thought, and I mean, it's never enough.
I just always feel like I chase that security where I don't have to worry about bills or like how to pay for things, and
security is made from decisions. It's not made from income too. That's what I found is like, it's just decisions. If you decided to buy less and live in a smaller house and like live way cheaper, you'd be able to do it. You could do it on your amount of income. It would suck.
Yeah.
Your life would suck.
The crazy thing is, like, even though my house is like pretty nice,
Cheap.
it's cheap for what I have.
What's your payment?
Like $12.30.
Yeah.
So if I downsize, I'm still going to be paying about that much.
Nah, you get cheaper.
Yeah.
Go to like
barely.
go to a little 2-bed, 1-bath.
Yeah.
You could live cheaper.
Yeah.
It just would suck.
Yeah, it would suck.
And so it's like, yeah, sometimes you just have to decide, okay, I could do this and I could make these choices, because at the end of the day, it's all just choices.
Yeah.
And so just know that you could, and then whenever you decide, you weigh that, okay, I could go live in this thing that's cheaper, that's not as nice and stuff. And then you choose to stay in your house because you actually enjoy that more. It makes you enjoy it more because now you're choosing it. It's whenever we feel like we're not choosing our life that it makes it feel not as fun. But whenever you're like, okay, I see the alternative, I could live like that. And I can, if I want to feel this security or whatever, I could go do all these things. But at the end of the day, maybe it's not exactly what you want. So then the question would be, how could you stay where you're at and feel financially secure, which is possible,
I know,
just
man.
decisions. So you just have to ask yourself, how could I do that? And then that creates thought, which creates a solution, which will make you make different decisions to go and get that solution.
So I think I'm on the path.
100%. Dude, that's the way it always
Little
is.
spot.
Goes like this.
Yeah.
It's life.
Because it's crazy. I'm paying like less than what I used to for rent. Because utilities in the older houses, the renting were a lot.
Yep.
So I'm paying less to have what I have now.
Overall,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
For the mortgage and the utilities and stuff. So it's, I don't know.
You got a nice
Gotta
house
piece
too.
things together, dude.
It's good.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, it's good. You do have a nice house.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
You have a nice house too. You have a couple nice houses, buddy.
Kinda.
Kind of.
Yeah. Kinda. It's a decent house. They're like just normal though, you know? Dude, I had
That's
some.
what we used to want, though.
Yeah, 100%, dude. Yeah, my house. Oh my gosh, dude. I remember when I first saw my house, I was like, dude, I have one of the nicest houses in my family. And then now I see it, I'm like, we buy so many houses, and I'm like, dude, my house is like nothing. And then it's so funny because Kelly, I was actually over at his house, and one of I think it was his wife or somebody was like, hey, what's like your dream house? And I'm like, I really don't care. Like, I don't know what it is about me, but I really don't care. I just like, it's not my thing. I was like, you know, when I get married and I have a wife, we're probably gonna like design a house together and stuff, but I'd be more inclined to do it with her than I would for myself, because for me, I'm just not interested in that kind of stuff. I'm more interested in like connections, relationships, and like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I just don't care about a house right now. I'm like, I don't have a dream house. I don't have a dream look. My house is nice, but it's not like, it's not crazy. Dude, I bought it for $145,000 back in 2016.
Which is awesome now.
It's crazy. I think it's worth like $275 now.
Jeez, like double almost.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That is wild, dude.
Hopefully that was helpful, guys. See you on the next one. Peace. Yep, you guys got a double take of walk because we just walked again. Hopefully you liked it.